And good Thursday evening. It is Thursday. Wow, I'm all confused. It's Tuesday, and it is 5 p.m. and we are continuing our interviews with the candidates. And this has been a busy day. We have had many candidates from all over, from governor, city council, school committee, jumping around a little bit today. But this week we're doing mostly Newport candidates. Next week, Middletown. The following week, Portsmouth. We have all sorts of races up and down the ballot coming up for you, interviews with the candidates. You can visit vote.ri.gov and you can see your sample ballot. I am looking at a sample ballot for Newport right now. And when I look at nonpartisan school committee, there are 8 people running for the 7 seats. And our next interview is the 4th person, 4 school committee, and she is Stephanie Winslow. And hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Ryan.
Happy Thursday.
I know. I laughed out loud because I had to actually check myself and say,
yeah,
Thursday.
I know. I don't know where that came from. I'm happy thinking. I was just talking to another of your school committee candidates about Thursday, so maybe that's what did it. But yeah, you are 4th on the ballot. You are an incumbent, and for those that don't know, you have kind of an interesting journey to school committee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I started getting involved, just kind of wanting to volunteer, and be more involved in the schools. I'm a product of Newport, and I thought I need to do something. This is my home now. And a vacancy came up on the school committee, and several friends encouraged me to apply for it. And I said, oh my God, yeah, really? I've never done this, but I got picked. The city council picked me. And my first day was Friday, March 13th, 2020, the infamous day that COVID all of a sudden became very real. So I got thrown right in. And decided to run for election that fall. So in November of 2020, I ran for the seat and I won that. And so I've been appointed, elected, and now I'm seeking my first re-election.
Yes, I remember being in City Hall when you were chosen, and you were shocked.
Oh, I was really surprised.
Yes.
Yeah, because the learning curve is steep. It takes a long time to figure stuff out and to really know what you're talking about and what where issues stand. There's a lot of history, right? And so there were candidates. I know Bob Power put his name in, and he's got a long history with Newport. He's running for school committee now, and so I thought, oh, Bob Power, he could jump right in. But for whatever reason, the city council just decided to take a little leap of faith, I think, and go with me. So I was very honored.
Yes, and we were chatting with the majority of school committee candidates. People can visit whatsupnuke.com to catch the other candidate interviews, and we have some tomorrow as well as some on Thursday as well. So 8 candidates, 7 seats, a lot different than last time around, but I guess we don't have Rogers as well as an expansion at Pell on the ballot this time.
Oh, well, not this time, but...
Yes.
There's always a meaty one, right? I heard your interview this morning with Becky, and it's like, yeah, it seems like I showed up to say I want to get involved, and I couldn't have been at a wilder time. Does it ever get calm?
I don't know. I feel like, I know they weren't back to back, but I feel like we went from Newport Grand's Casino.
That was 2018.
Yeah. So we did. Yeah.
There's always something.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
I'm afraid to ask what could possibly be next. For people that don't know you, and maybe haven't had a chance to meet you because of COVID, seeing that you've been on during the COVID years, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, again, so this is my first re-election campaign. I've been on the committee for about 3 years. Or it will be about 3 years by the time the election happens. And I'm from Newport. I spent my whole childhood here and did go to Newport Public Schools. I left for a while for college and a first job, and I ended up coming back. And I said, when I was so fortunate to squeak into a house, buy a house in 2018. And I just said, I have to Newport's really my home now. I'm committed. How can I be involved? How can I give back? And education is always something that I've really been passionate about, because I think that schools are just the heart of your community. This is what brings people to a community. This is where we meet our best friends and where our parents meet friends, and it's something we all have in common. And so I'm always the person who kind of wants to go to the root of a problem or a project. And I just thought this would be a great place to be involved and to get in and give back.
What has been your experience like on school committee, and what's been the biggest surprise?
Well, it's hard. I think the time commitment was the biggest surprise. I knew it would be a lot of time, but you can make it a full-time job for sure. I know that. I mean, just like the school building project, Becky, Louisa, they work. And when they say it's a lot of work, they're not kidding. Like, people have to understand they are working full time on this, and it's volunteer. So it can be very demanding on your free time if you've got, I get a full-time job. I don't have kids, but this becomes basically all the kids are my kid. So just kind of, you get out of it what you put into it. I think if you really have ideas and you want to run with them, you can make a big impact. But for some people, it's really just kind of being part of the decision making and things. It's really rewarding. It can be overwhelming, but when you step back and say, I was part of that, it's rewarding, because locally, this is like where you can affect change, I think, more than anywhere in your life. And so to help bring about positive change to your community is really invaluable to me.
Back at the end of June, you declared your candidacy. What were some of the reasons that you decided to keep up with these long hours and long nights and part-time, full-time job?
It goes by quickly. 2 years flew by. And I mean, it's no secret, I don't want to make this a hobby. I don't want to do it forever. But I do think I can definitely give back another term. There are a couple of projects that I started on the first term that haven't been finished that I really want to see through. So I'd like to get those done and then reassess from there. And it's just kind of neat. Like, an elected office is sort of always there. You could participate and then take a step back, do something different. There's the city side, who knows? So I thought I had 2 years left in me.
What are some of the projects that you're hoping to get done before the next election?
So our health and wellness committee is working on, well, okay, I guess I'll preface this by the two big areas where school committee acts and oversees is policy and budget. So I'm more involved on the policy side. And there's two policies that I'm working on in particular. One is a new health and wellness policy that really it addresses the whole child. Like, this came out of, I believe it came out of No Child Left Behind, but then was sort of taken on with the Obama administration. And, childhood obesity is a huge issue. So getting physically fit in school, improving school meals was a big initiative. So any district that receives Title I funding, which is when you have like a high poverty district, that's Newport, right? So any district like that has to have a health and wellness subcommittee. And so we're rewriting our policy. It's kind of out of compliance now, but I really wanted to add language about mental health, which I think is, I really believe that this is a community issue, right? This is bigger than schools. Kids need help, but adults need help too. This isn't something that only schools can address. We're not healthcare professionals, but it's certainly something we can teach about. We can, help try to remove stigma and normalize the conversation and get kids talking about mental health and what that means and how that might impact their schoolwork and their future success and just positive decision making. And again, addressing school meals and physical activity and recess and all that stuff. Like, it's a huge policy, but it really addresses the whole child. And that's really important to me. The other one that I'm working on is actually an anti-racism policy that's been going on for like 2 years. And I'm trying to get most of it to come from the students. which has been fascinating. So there are two groups I'm trying to work with. One is the Young Philosophers at Fab Newport, and it's made up of a couple students from the Met School and a couple of students from Rogers High School. And the other group I'm working with is the Diversity and Relevance Committee, which is all at Rogers High School. And I can tell you that these kids blow me away. I mean, blow me away. We were not talking about this stuff when we were in high school. We were just like, I feel like I was under a rock. And their awareness of the world today is really inspiring to me. So I'm very excited that a lot of the language is coming from them, and I want those two things definitely to be finished before I say, okay, next project.
Do you think they're close to the finish line?
Nothing is ever finished, but an initial draft, yes. Probably by the spring. I think.
And then I guess it's probably different ways for each of them, but then they would need approval from your colleagues on school committee and go up through the city.
The first thing we would do is actually present the policy to the policy subcommittee and have them, make changes or recommendations, or we work with our school attorney. The superintendent is part of that. We also have members of the public on that committee. And so we bring it to them. And once everybody's happy with that, then it will go to the full school committee for a vote. And there can even be more amendments at that point, but hopefully we'll have done our work and gotten everybody on board.
Yeah, there's that's a lot there.
Yeah.
And as if that wasn't enough, there's this little thing called regional school districts that is question number 5 on the ballot. There are 10 questions for those who might be watching for the first time one of these interviews. Visit vote.rri.gov. See your sample ballot. There are 10 questions. You're going to hear a lot about one of the questions, which is actually question 5 and only for Newport. And the language, if you just try to read it, my biggest fear is people going in and just reading an act authorizing the city of Newport and the town of Middletown to establish a regional school district in providing for state aid for school housing costs at school housing reimbursement rates for regional school districts, which, including incentives, may exceed 80% of debt services for expenditures eligible for state aid to be approved. Somebody's going to go in for the first time and go approve or reject. And I personally, from the more I talk about it, and I do think there's going to be some confusion here, and I don't think the vote or the result that we see on November 8th, November 9th is going to be reflective of what people would do if they could understand that.
Yeah, I agree.
Where do you fall on the regional school district?
Oh man. So I don't support the current proposal. And that almost feels like a gut punch, because I've wanted a regional school district on this island for my entire life. I mean, they started talking about it when I was a kid, and it makes just so much sense to me that we would be one district. And in 2019, I really thought this was it. Like, okay, Middletown needs a high school, Newport needs a high school. We're going in, this is going to be fantastic. And it was really a stunning rejection. Fast forward to 2022, Middletown can't afford the school construction that they want. And so there's this lucrative deal that's been crafted by the Rhode Island Department of Education after rejecting Middletown's first plan that says, okay, we're just going to do an administrative regionalization with Newport. Just your superintendents and the top level positions. You can keep your own schools, remain separate, and we'll give you that 80% we offered in 2019. And now suddenly, Middletown is all in. I can't help but feel that the motivation is purely financial to build separate schools in Middletown. And as a member of the Newport School Committee, that we are charged with the care and custody of our schools and students. And I'm horrified by that motivation. So I just don't see a desire to bring our two small communities together. No combined buildings or facilities, no plans for joint sports teams and extracurriculars. People are saying, oh, they're willing, but we've seen all this language touting separate schools as the best part of this deal. There's like Facebook posts from Middletown saying no student will ever have to attend school in Newport unless they choose to. There's a Middletown town website shares saying just today, like, importantly, Middletown students would attend Middletown schools. There's press releases from Newport and Middletown that say we'll be preserving respective traditions and identities. And I just think this is not regionalization. This is having your cake and eating it too. I think the deal focuses basically only on short-term savings. So everybody's talking about all this money we'd save, this 46 million Newport would get, but nobody has a clear understanding of how the finances would work. The finance committee, as a matter of fact, would actually be a separate body from the new school committee, the new regional school committee, if this were to pass. They would be appointed by the Middletown Town Council and the Newport City Council. They're unelected officials. So that power is being taken from the school committee and given to this unelected board. And that has a lot of us very nervous, like, well, who really controls the budget? The reimbursement that Newport would get, it's not going to be a lump sum, right? It's an extra payment on our bond repayment from the state each year for 20 or 30 years. So it's not like we're going to get this huge influx of cash that we can just do something magical with. And then on top of that, there's really no mechanism in place to take that money every year and actually direct it to school budgets, or even something that Newport could really use, like workforce housing. There's just, unless people lobby every year at the city council's door, that money could easily it's just going to go back to the general operating budget. So again, it's like, where is this huge savings going to be put into? That has me nervous. Newport already borrowed. The money's in our bank account. Ground has been broken on Rogers High School. So it's not like this is a tax avoidance. This is extra money for the city's operating budget to do as they see fit. And
this is so wild because 2020, I've said this three times today, but you knew where people stood, whether they were for or against Rogers, a new Rogers and expansion at Pell. I'm not going to have you speak for other school committee candidates, but I can say, I spoke with two other candidates today who I think are on the fence. Nobody I've spoken to on the school committee so far has come out and said we should 100% support it. Is the best and fairest way for me to say it. Which I just hope people are listening. I'm not advocating either way or the other, but it's alarming to me, who tries to pay attention, that you're the third incumbent who is not jumping up and down for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's so hard to get information to people. And it's like there are newspapers, there's blogs and websites and emails every day, and there are meetings you can go to, and you have to commit time to getting that information, but it's still unbelievable to me how few people know. And the scary thing is, like, so many people want a regional school district that they might see this question and say, oh my God, yes, I've always wanted this, but they have no idea that they're signing up for separate schools. And I think that when the public sees something like this, of this magnitude on the ballot, they should expect that the due diligence has been done, that the plan is in place. And it's, at this point, it's up to the voters to say yes or no. I completely disagree here, that I think the lack of planning is actually very frightening. We're basically being asked to vote on a concept of what we hope regionalization could be, and not a plan that educational leaders have come up with for us. And so there's just so much risk involved in it. It's really the classic cart way before the horse, way before. And it could work if it's designed with purpose and intent and student outcomes really as the forefront. Money is great to save, but if you're doing this purely to save money, you're gonna end up sorry in the end.
I'm trying not to put you in a spot here, but why is it on the ballot?
It's on the ballot because there are, in 2018, there was a statewide school construction bond passed, Fix Our Schools or whatever. And there were these special bonus incentives tied to that bond that were incentives to get municipalities to just go for it, build new buildings, newer and fewer, health and safety, environmental, all this stuff that would get you this reimbursement above and beyond your normal rate. So our normal rate in Newport is 35%, but because we went ahead in 2018, 2019 and started planning for this, and had that bond passed in 2020 and will now break ground before the deadline, which is written into law, of December 31st, 2023, we are eligible for additional bonus. And that's why we're getting the 52.5% reimbursement rate from the state. So there's an extra reimbursement rate if you choose to regionalize, and that's up to 80%. If you regionalize every grade, it was like 2% per grade or something. So you can get up to 80.5% reimbursement. And so we went to Middletown with this offer in 2019 and said, if we build a high school together, we'll get 60-something% reimbursement. And if we regionalize all grades, we could get even more. But the deal is you have to break ground by December 31st, 2023. So right now, Middletown has decided they want in on this money for their school construction. And in order to meet the deadline, they have to do it now. There's no time for them left. So it's being rushed.
Yeah, and I guess, please correct me if I'm wrong, but school committee didn't take a vote as a whole to move it. If we get really technical, how it gets on the ballot is city council took a vote to send it up to the state house for the legislator to put it up there. But did school committee ever take an official vote to say, we want this?
No, no, we've been excluded.
Well, I think it's important to make sure.
I don't know. Yeah. It was a select group of counselors who I think with RIDE struck a deal and decided this would be a great thing. And there were consultants hired and, a website set up and a lot of rosy language coming out, basically making it sound like we've been working together on this deal. And I find that a little disingenuous because, again, this is not a plan that was put together with education as the primary goal. People just think, all right, we'll just slap the two districts together and all of a sudden magically things are going to change. But if you don't have, genuine plans for equity and student achievement and efficient facilities, it's just the status quo. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. So we haven't really been included. The superintendents have been part of the steering committee, but I, to be honest, don't really know what the steering committee has done, and it's actually already disbanded. So I'm baffled, Ryan. I'm baffled. Like I said, I've wanted that regional high school on this island since I was a kid. We thought it would be the coolest thing. The students, we thought it would be great. And it's like, this is a bad deal. This is a short-sighted solution.
Well, to add to the confusion, there is a question too for every Rhode Islander about Rhode Island school buildings for $250 million, which will provide funding for the construction, renovation, and rehabilitation of the state's public schools. There's question 5 in Newport for the regional school district, and then Middletown will have 2 questions. And how Superintendent Colleen Burns-Germain explained it to us last week on video is question 5 in Newport has to pass, and the 2 questions in Middletown have to pass. All 3 have to pass in order for this to move forward. If we need 3 strikes, otherwise it doesn't move forward.
It's all or nothing. It's all the eggs in one basket. Yeah.
And there's not a campaign promoting that or not promoting that. So, which baffles me that
I know
we're not putting that out there.
I know it's there are so many questions. I mean, we've had to work. It started in 2017 for just the school bond, just for a high school, and an addition at Pell was like a almost 4-year process, and we're still trying to get information out. There's updates every week, and there's website, and there's just public meetings, and that's just one high school. So the magnitude, I don't think people realize just how many decisions are going to be put, have to be decided should this pass. And and just how complicated it is. I mean, really, everything is up to this new school board. I mean, we have 8 people running for 7 seats in Newport. So I don't know where all the volunteers are going to come from to really put this together. I hope, my God, if it passes, I mean, we're going to need help, a lot of help, because
Yeah.
there's so much planning to do, special ed requirements and English learner programs, and somehow design a curriculum for 2 districts where you've got, 2 tiny high schools. We haven't even seen a model yet where it's like, okay, you have 2 high schools. How are we going to plan those 2 high schools, program those 2 high schools to be mirrors of each other equitably? And you're going to have AP calculus in both locations. You're not going to be zooming kids in. We saw that remote learning, it serves a purpose, but it is not something to do full time. We don't have virtual reality in every classroom, and it probably won't for a long time. So we're kind of committed to a brick and mortar model, at least for the foreseeable future. So just so many questions. I want to see a plan.
Yeah, and I could talk, I think, with each school committee candidate for probably 30 minutes each, at least.
Yeah.
School district, but that wouldn't be fair to your own campaign. But I think it gives a lot of insight to each the candidates about the reason why they support or don't support, and it all comes to the bottom line of your role on school committee and what your goals are.
Yeah. I mean, we're charged with the care and custody of our students. So for me, it's like I have to see the educational benefit way before any financial savings. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, it's and people, we are going to work on a lengthy story about it. I'm going to have some other people on to talk about it. So we'll continue the conversation. We'll have all the videos so people can compare and contrast why each school committee candidate. So far, I am pretty much. I don't have a school committee candidate jumping up and down for it right now.
Yeah.
And one of the candidates for city council as well was saying the same. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we could, it's important, I think, that people realize that the reimbursement rate for a regional school district would be 67% going forward. I mean, I think what would take is to just say, listen, we've got to not just build the status quo schools in Middletown. If we do really want to come together, we have to come up with a plan that includes the new Rogers High School, maybe transitioning that to a different model someday, but build a new combined high school in Middletown. And, we have, first you get the educational plan of what the kids need. Then you design facilities to support it, because buildings are a tool. And then you find a way to pay for it. And maybe you can only pay for some of it, but it's like we're just doing it backwards. All we see is this like great financial offer, and that's just short-sighted.
Yeah, it sounds like you would have supported the notion of kind of having a special election on this question after some more planning, possibly next year or the year after.
Yeah. I mean, if a good solid plan comes together for 2024 and we start building schools together, I will be the one there with my shovel.
What are some of the other challenges besides all of this going on with Newport School Committee?
Oh man, challenges with the school committee or with like schools?
Oh, just with your role. Yeah.
I think there's one message I could get across over and over. I like to say that I don't think Americans realize just how much they ask of their public schools. They ask the schools to basically solve for every problem, for poverty and hunger and poor adolescent mental health and violence, and you name it. Right? We've got to teach every kid and make them all high performing adults in 6 hours a day, 180 days, 12 years. So it is not a lot of time. There's not a lot of funding for it. It seems like everybody wants it to be this magic bullet, but we don't prioritize it. So just community engagement. I really want people to realize that it does take a village and come forward and be part of the solution and step up and help. And in any way you can, and support the schools. You know, when they're asking for money to expand a program or whatever it might be, it's because we're trying to do right by the kids. They need a lot. They need a lot. It's a tough world out there these days. You see your friends or your adults, we're all suffering. Imagine being a teenager right now.
Yeah. And I had asked that question before of if you could put a note in everybody's pocket in Newport. You know, one thing you would want to know, you would want everybody in the community to know about Newport Public Schools, Newport School Committee. And it sounds like you would say, you know, support more and understand how much that you're asking.
Yeah, I think the whole notion of labeling schools as good and bad, which you hear all the time. Oh, Portsmouth has good schools and Newport has bad schools. It's just, it blows me away. They don't realize that labeling has such stigma, and the kids are totally aware. You know, I remember sitting at graduation last June, 2021 or something, and the valedictorian class president gave a speech and said, you know, I know Rogers has a bad rap. And I'm thinking, you know, the kids hear this. They know this. They know they're being labeled as failing, as not good enough, as a bad school district. I see maybe their friends have moved away. The parents want a different, you know, opportunity. And that's poisonous. That is the biggest hurdle for Newport to overcome. And it all stems from just this one, like, data point of standardized test scores. I can tell you there's so much more going on in Newport Public Schools than people realize. I wish they would just, you know, ask questions, call us up, or attend some meetings, or try to get to know the teachers and the administrators a little better. And the kids, they're just phenomenal. They're phenomenal.
I like to think about it as if, you know, if you know, you get told that you suck all day, every day. You know, imagine the power we could have as a community if we talked about how great things were. And that's not to sugarcoat it or to cover up anything. But if we celebrated and, you know, if you could turn what unfortunately a lot of that has come from the last couple of elections where people are looking for political points, whether to vote, whether to approve or reject things. But as a community, if we could just come together and celebrate and lift them up, you know, they'll go up. They're not going to fall down.
Right. We spend a lot of time and effort doing that in Newport, trying to celebrate the whole student and not just focus on one or two things. And you know, you see that reflected in our curriculum in our Career Tech High School. Our teachers are always trying to drum up support. Great administrators. Our superintendent she never stops being positive about Newport, and we try very, very hard. But you know, if you just Google Newport Public Schools, through the real estate website, you're going to find low test scores, and you're going to say, "Oh, I can't live there." Americans have to understand that there's way more going on, way more.
Yeah. What's one of the coolest things that you have been a part of or have been able to make possible during your terms?
I am going to go back to working on that anti-racism policy with the students. I think that's been eye-opening for me. Just, I think they were pretty happy that just some adult from the school committee wanted to get their feedback on stuff, but this wasn't a thing, I think, when I was in school, really student voice and being part of, you know, your plan, having agency in what you design for your program of study and stuff. It's like, we're really moving away from the model of like just kids sit in the classroom and listen to the teacher. The kids are really just so much more engaged. And so I wanted to get involved because I kept hearing things like, oh, Newport Public Schools are terrible. They're terrible. They're failing. And I just think that is the furthest thing from the truth after really getting involved and finding out more that we need to update our definitions of success as adults in this society.
And you hit on it, but just because I like talking about it, best ways community can support Newport School Committee, you as a committee member or Newport Public Schools, you know, or a small way, and not even the best way. What is a small way?
You know what's easy now? Meetings are online. City council meetings are online. School committee meetings are online. So you can just tune in while you're making dinner or something. And yeah, they can be pretty procedural and sometimes boring. But if there's something you hear and you want to know more about, you can definitely. We're all just Newport people too. You can call us up and find out more. And also we have amazing community partners in Newport, like FAB Newport and Boys and Girls Club and Martin Luther King Center and Newport Partnership for Families and Newport Public Education Foundation. And geez, there's probably so many more. I'm still new to the game, so I don't know everybody, but you can volunteer in so many ways and be part of it. You can even be part of like the policy subcommittee or the health and wellness subcommittee. Just volunteer. You can run for office. That's a big one, but
that is a big one. Yeah.
I think everybody go for it. I'm just a normal person. We're all normal people and we're doing the best we can.
Another small way is if you don't, there are no excuses to, I can't think of a good excuse not to get involved. You can even just sign up to get the agenda emailed to you and look over the agenda before a meeting.
Yeah.
And just know what school committee or city council is discussing.
Right.
That will help you become a more informed.
Yeah, and you're right. And I have to thank you for like these interviews because it's invaluable in terms of getting the message out. I see this almost as just like there's so much to learn about Newport and here's my tiny take on it. It's a lot easier than maybe just answering some written questions or getting 1 minute to respond to stuff. Politics is a lot of sound bites and these are really meaty topics. There's so much more going on. So it's nice to be able to take the time and talk about stuff. Yeah,
it's I blame Senator Lou DePalma, who I'm going to have on in a couple weeks, coming up with this idea. But I think it's sometimes when we're answering questions or if we're just doing 2-minute sound bites as part of a forum or a debate, you don't get to hear the passion. You get all the canned answers. And sometimes it's just fun. I have some general topics that I know I have to hit on, but sometimes it's just fun to follow you with the conversation or a candidate with the conversation and see what they're passionate about, what they want to talk about and why they're doing what they're doing.
Right. So, I appreciate that.
Of course. And so it's just a couple weeks away and people can start voting early October 19th. 8 people for 7 seats. And Mr. Ray Gomes retired. And so there will be some change in leadership with city council, with school committee. And that'll be a fun and interesting change from the outside. Ray has been nothing but professional with me and us. And we're certainly going to miss him over there, but I'm sure you guys will do a good job.
We're still going to be calling him. Don't worry.
Yes, I know. No, yeah, I should.
No, we'll be fine. It's people always step up, which is nice. There's always somebody who kind of fills those shoes. But Ray's been excellent. He really has. Silent, quiet leadership.
That's it.
Wow. Yep.
Some of the best. Anything that we did not hit on today, Stephanie?
Oh, you know what? There's a lot. There's a lot to say and a lot of unknowns and a lot of questions too. So I would encourage people you can call me 401-324-9101 or email me. I have just my personal steph.newportschools@gmail.com. If you have a question, you want to know more, and I'll be honest, I don't always have the answers, but I'll try. So.
All righty. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and wish you the very best of luck. And as I've been saying, thank you for all that you do in Newport as a volunteer and in your position.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. And that is Stephanie Winslow. If you missed any portion of this interview, you could find it on whatsupnoop.com as well as all of our other candidate interviews and our interview schedule. We are chatting with Newport School Committee and Newport City Council candidates this week, and you can find them all online. Thanks for watching.